Welcome back to the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset podcast with me, Johnny Pardo. Today, I welcome Asheida, where we're going to be talking about using confidence with your voice. So, just an introduction to Asheida. So, Asheida is a voice coach helping speakers confidently own their voice so that they can deliver a magnetic message to their audience. She lives in beautiful British Columbia, Canada, where she teaches locally and internationally. Her holistic approach often goes beyond the voice, encompassing themes of our inner voice and internal dialogue throughout our personal journey. Welcome to the show today, Shada. Good to have you on here and glad we can make this happen. So, yeah, my kind of first question, obviously, it's great to get people to really own their voice. I feel like it's something I've had to develop like confidence in speaking out over time. And I know a lot of people struggle to really get themselves out there, and then having a like really working on your voice is a really important skill. I've done like voice coaching as well in the past. But yeah, just be really interesting to hear about how you got into voice coach and maybe a little bit about your journey into that.
Yeah, sure. Well, first off, Johnny, thanks so much for having me on your podcast. It's a pleasure to be on it. And my journey really started with a near-death experience as a child.
Mm,
Um, and it was really knowing this dramatic event that took me basically through an experience that it doesn't happen very often. It was the only time it's happened. And I saw the tunnel of light and just a lot of the things that people report when
mm,
they have something like that happen. And from that experience, I learned that there's something on the other side of fear. There's an incredible amount of grace that can come through when we show up in the moment. And I think I took that throughout my life, these peak moments of fear and then
mm,
overcoming them. And so I often think that it's about confronting our fear. And there's obviously tools for that we use to help the nervous system, but then also surrendering and knowing that there's grace in the moment. And how I got into it was actually, I'm a creative person. I'm a singer-songwriter. And so my journey with the voice happened through that window, so to speak. And it happened when I went to music school and I found that I was pretty limited with my voice range and how to use my voice. And after that, I took specialty training for the voice. So I worked with some of the world's great vocal instructors, master vocal instructors, to help me with my own voice. And they invited me to, start training to become a teacher with the voice. And so a lot of my time over the last 10 plus years has been working with artists, singers,
mm,
and also it started trickling into the space of leaders and speakers. People started coming to me from different industries like crypto, um, AI, people on YouTube, and leaders in different industries where they had similar problems I noticed. And some of it was the avoidance of getting up and speaking because they didn't feel confident in their bodies. They were looking out thinking, oh, what are people going to think of me? And it was a very external experience for them. And some practical challenges that people were wanting help with as well. So I started working one to one with them. And from there, I started noticing there were a lot of commonalities, but then also some differences that I could help them with through my vocal training, because a lot of it is foundational.
mm.
Um, what else could I add to that? I mean, there's several different, yeah, practicalities and challenges that people have that, we can address after.
I wonder what were some of the commonalities you found in people perhaps coming to you. I know obviously there's always going to be differences. We're human beings at the end of the day, we're all different. But yeah, I just wondered if there were any particular commonalities you found.
Yeah. So some of the commonalities I found were people felt restricted in their voice somehow. So they would develop tension, especially it would increase. It would just like hype right up when it came down to it, where they were about to do a presentation or get up on stage or even speaking our truth and having to say something difficult or uncomfortable. It just kind of would seize up and cramp up like, like a little cage. It's like, let the bird out. And so it's that vocal strain, losing your voice because you're on sales calls back to back.
Mm.
So I've had people come in and say, "Oh yeah, by the end of the day, I'm fried," and it's hard to. I've heard people report like it's really hard to engage and have that energy when you're like just tired, and it shows up in the voice. So it's hard to inspire other people if you're feeling like, "Dang, what did I do to my voice?" You know, I found that sometimes people they just didn't know, there wasn't an awareness of how to use their voice. So
Mm.
they would lose it, or sometimes it's even just losing the audience, their attention. Um, yeah,
Mm.
it's really interesting. So it really is a matter of knowing how to use your instrument and being able to be centered within yourself and connect with and inspire your audience through the different sounds and tones that you make with your voice. So for singers, it's more expansive. Obviously, we've got
Mm.
sustained notes, we've got high notes, low notes. And for speakers, there is the commonality there. It's just it might not be as expansive, right? So you're not holding single notes for a long time. You won't be doing as high of a peak or valley, like I call them,
Mm.
but you still need that available to you to some degree so that their brains can peak up when they hear your voice. If our voice is stagnant or staying too close within a certain range, it becomes very monotonous, right? And the brain starts to go into this still place, and it's harder to listen to people
Mm.
when it's the same tone over and over and without pauses, without inflections and high points and low points.
Mm.
So that's where the commonality lies, I think, a big portion of it.
Mm. Mm. A few there like that sound, yeah, quite familiar. That I've heard people sort of like mention about. Um, with like the speakers, is there like something in terms of their confidence that you found that is missing sometimes? Is it that they've like just had a string of bad performances? Is it sometimes they come to you with a little bit of negative self-talk? Because I know a lot of us have this, or people I've spoken to in the past, we have this challenge of like, oh my God, what do people think of me, and all these kind of things. Do you find people come to you with that kind of thing?
Yes, yes, people do. And I find that's pretty much why I developed in my program. I have an
Mm.
aspect of what I teach is the inner voice.
Mm.
So our inner voice and our outer voice, they are connected, they are linked. And I have often found people that are feeling a lack of confidence will also have a lack of clarity in what they want to convey, a
Mm.
lack of clarity in how to use the voice. And one of the telltale signs is, and people have probably heard this before, a lot of ums or
Mm.
saying, and we all do it from time to time. It's usually because we're still collecting our thoughts. So there's a component of the inner voice, the nervous system that comes into play here.
Mm.
And I've often noticed that when we feel not as confident in ourselves, what happens sometimes is instead of having an affirmative sound with our voice, we might be ending our phrases or sentences with with an inflection going up, as opposed to, and here we are, instead of, sometimes people will be saying, and here we are. That might not be a great example, but
Mm.
sometimes people will slightly go up and we can pick up on those nuances. And what I've noticed is when we have a lack of confidence, which again happens to all of us at some point throughout our life, what happens is people don't trust us as much. And it's just a natural thing. It's nothing personal, but in order for people to feel at rest with what we're saying and to be in trust with that, they want to feel that you trust yourself and that you've got this. There's a confidence that gets conveyed to the audience and to our clients. Otherwise, it's just they just won't feel like they're held in that space. They might have questions or hesitancy. And all of these are a natural part of, I think, us learning how to communicate with each other in a way that's going to feel good for everybody. Yeah. And when it's not, what happens is it can create this cycle going downwards where if we don't feel confident because maybe something happened to us, like you had mentioned, maybe we had a bad stroke of a bad luck. We got up on stage and everyone was on their phone and we couldn't like get the audience to look back at, to focus on our delivery and our message. Or maybe we're on the phone with a client and you can tell they're just kind of, elsewhere. And see, when that happens, we feel like we've lost the reins, and without the tools to know how to use our voice to confidently bring people back, what happens is the downward spiral of I've lost this client, I've lost the audience, what do I do? Then people go into a primal state and the fear can kick in. The shakiness in our voice can kick in. And this downward cycle can then, we often get then hard on ourselves and more fear kind of gets stacked on, because then we think, oh no, my voice is shaking. Oh no, I've lost the audience. And then it just kind of goes from there. So I teach people how to come back into their body, into their breath, and to their voice, because specific things happen with the voice when we get into a primal state. And it's about us unraveling that and practicing that so that when we show up, and so that we can show up better, people can feel that ease and that groundedness in our voice.
Do you do, and just you mentioned obviously about breathing, and then you've sort of like touched on the nervous system and coming back into that. Is that something you like regularly encourage people to do, just to kind of like regulate that? Or maybe it's just something they need, or maybe it's something you teach them when they need it. I'm just really curious to hear your take on that, because I know from my experience with the nervous system, there can be this like intense like fight or flight response. There can be this like grounded, calm response, and then there can be this kind of like withdrawn, kind of like hidden response that things are just a bit overwhelming, so I need to rest, kind of thing. I just wondered in kind of the work you're doing and encouraging people with their voice, if that was kind of like a regular practice you see people getting into, or it's just kind of when they need it, really.
Yeah. Well, I encourage people to have a regular practice with it, because when we're working with the nervous system, it's not just going to help our voice. It helps our confidence. It helps us how we show up in the world. And I have a firsthand experience of that from having peak fear experiences throughout my life, some of which have been not even just the one near-death experience, but a few of them.
Wow.
So it's really about taking all this power, which is fear. Fear is power, but in the, I guess, negative sense, right? And it's funneling it in through the body. Our body is like I like to see the body has a transmuting kind of machine in the most highest sense. It's such it's got such an incredible intelligence. And it seems to operate really well when we engage with our breath. And so I encourage people to take deeper breaths if they can, slowly. Nervous. And the key here is to elongate and slow down the exhale. And usually we have to do quite a few quite a few breaths of that, but people will begin to feel things settling in. We might have the nervousness in our belly or wherever we feel it, but it begins to dissipate because now we're using that power in a different way, as opposed to, oh my gosh, all the thoughts are racing and all the body systems are firing. Primal state, now we're just containing it with the breath and slowing everything down with the breath on the exhale. It can be really powerful. And there's so many other tools that we have available for us to get the nervous system to work for us. And when we go into a fear state, it really is just telling us, hey, I'm freaking out. I need some more support. And when we know what that support is, it could work with us as opposed to against us.
Yeah, love that. Really working the nervous system, particularly from the breath, and getting us into that more grounded state that you're talking about. Because I know for me things can get quite in the past out of control. It's and not just kind of like, I remember like first time I even was going to just speak in front of a group of people, even a small group. It's just my heartbeat was like up. It was like all those kind of things, and didn't know any of the tools then. Luckily I kept pushing through it, and then getting enough references. But yeah, some of the things you're talking about there sound really beneficial for doing some of those breath work to sort of like really ground us in those moments as well. Is there anything you see? Because one thought that just randomly came to mind then is the thing. What's her name? Amy Cuddy was like, talking about like the power pose and doing those the power pose or certain physiology changes. Do you see people like doing that often before they go out and sing or before they go out and speak? Is that something you've perhaps worked with people on, those kind of movements as well? May or may
Yeah.
not be. I'm just really interested.
Yeah, actually I have, and I know the power pose. I've used it myself, and I've also, when I'm teaching, I help students tap into that. I also work with children, so a lot of the time when we're doing, our singing or any speaking, we always come back to this power pose. Another thing that we can do for the body, which is a really nice, I guess we can call it a hack. it's it's bending our knees slightly. So when we bend our knees slightly and we've got like a shoulder width apart when we're standing, when we bend our knees and lean ever so slightly forwards onto the balls of the feet without engaging the calf too much, what happens is it allows the diaphragm to drop. And the diaphragm is
Oh
part
wow.
of here, our stomach. It will drop and it will relax. And when that happens, we're able to take a deeper breath. And that's a really good thing when we are in a primal state and scared, um, because what happens is things constrict, things contract and get tight when we get into a fear state. So if we can remember, oh yeah, I've got locked knees right now, let's soften it, let's bend the knees a little bit. It's easier to take a deeper breath, and on the exhale, slow it down and just look around the room, who you're connecting with before, and then from that place, drop your voice onto everybody there, instead of in a locked place, feeling the pressure like, oh, people are looking at me, I need to say something now. Oh, oh, oh. So that's the difference. It's really getting present with ourselves and feeling safe in our own bodies so that when we're communicating and sharing our message, and there's so many people that want to lead and should be leading. When we're able to when we're able to have more awareness of our body and our voice, then we can show up in a way that's going to help people feel like, oh, wow, this is a leader here. This is someone that I can trust, someone that wants to make an impact, and someone that might have some value to share with others. I've noticed that when we don't have when we don't have that awareness or that training or help, we're missing out, and it's not just us missing out on these relationships with others and opportunities, but other people won't get to know us. Other people won't know our skill sets and talents. And that's one thing I've noticed when people come to me. They're really talented, they have a lot of skills and wonderful things to share. And often what holds them back is the fear and just the unawareness of how to use their instrument, the voice.
Yeah, it's a very powerful leading tool. But yeah, like what you're trying to, it's great the work you're trying to do, like help people lead more who feel like they want to be leaders, but it's just like, how do I use myself? And yeah, the voice can be a very powerful tool. Loving that.
Really?
Asheida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share one quick thing, a tool for everybody
Oh yes,
to
please.
relax and get into their nervous system. And it's the hum. So humming can be really therapeutic for the nervous system. So if we have clients and students and your audience, if they feel not confident and they're not sure how to present themselves, coming into the body and doing some humming and even placing their hands somewhere that's relaxing for them. Like I tend to put one on my stomach, one on my heart, and you hum, and it's just on a sustained note. So, might seem kind of strange and simple. The vibrations really connect and relax the nervous system and help us get more in touch with our body before we go and connect with others.
I almost started humming myself then. So
I know, right? Yeah. And
contagious.
yeah, and it's done on a note that's relaxed in your speaking voice. And it also warms up the voice. Yeah.
A hum. I like that. It's a good one. Yeah. So Shada, you've given us a lot of amazing tips we could use and go out and utilize and really build that confidence in our voice. I know there's a lot more you offer out there, and I know there's a lot more value you add to people to really help them lead with their voice, be more confident with their voice, get out there and make that impact, be more of who they are. So yeah, just as we kind of like come to kind of an end today, where can the listener find you or find out more about your work?
Yes. Well, I offer right now, I've got a signature program that I've got the speakers edition. So any leaders that want to get comfortable with their voice, I have my programs called Master Your Magnetic Voice. I think I sent the link as
Yeah,
well.
we'll be sure to link that. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So there's that. And I would just love to connect and help people have a few more tools so that they can at least take that first step out in the world and help other people. And so with that, I've got a special offering, half an hour free consult with me. And that is for the month of July and August. And
Awesome.
so yeah, for them to reach me, what they could do is go to the website vocalveda.com. It's vocal, and then Veda is VEDA.com. And just go into the contact section. They can put Johnny Podcast for the subject heading.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. Thank you for that, Shada. We'll be sure to link that up to take advantage of. that amazing opportunity to speak to you. So thanks so much for coming on today, Asheida. Appreciate you.
Johnny, yeah, I appreciate the work you're doing and helping men with their confidence and getting out there. So
Yeah,
it's
of
great work.
course. So that concludes our episode for today. And remember, you're in control of your own self esteem and confidence.